As I've gone on this journey of self-development and transformation, being able to create my reality in the ways that I want, and as I've gone around also being able to help clients and others do the same, I've noticed that there is something that seems to give you the most bang for your buck and seems to be the most impactful when it comes to being able to do this, and it is called shadow work. One of my favorite books on this topic, or at least on the topic of letting go, is named Letting Go by David Hawkins, a resource I would highly recommend. And throughout this book, it is just filled with example after example of people that Hawkins worked with, where the main thing they worked on was helping them release and let go of certain energies, beliefs, and other things, and how much their life improved simply through doing this. They weren't necessarily doing all of these other things that we would consider self-improvement or growth-oriented, although those things can be important. But just by removing and releasing and letting go of certain aspects that they were holding on to, their lives started to improve radically. I've also found with myself and with clients and other people who have done this kind of work that if you skip out on doing the shadow work, even if you do everything else, you're improving yourself, you're trying to shift your identity, trying to transform, trying to learn these different reality creation principles. If you skip the shadow work, which can sometimes be the toughest one to a degree, but if you skip it, you're not going to get the results that you want. Trying to create reality or be able to operate at a higher frequency, which helps you create a better reality for yourself, is like trying to float to the surface of water with energetic anchors connected at your ankles. And so imagine that you are suspended in water and you can breathe, it's fine, you're not going to drown or anything. But let's imagine you were suspended in water. If nothing was weighing you down, what would naturally begin to happen is you would start floating towards the top. And the higher you go up, the higher you float, the higher the level of consciousness, and the more of your reality creation abilities that you unlock, and the more life also helps you to create the things that you want. But if you have what we can call energetic anchors tied to your ankle, then you could even try and swim up towards the surface, but as soon as you stop swimming, which you'll have to do because you get exhausted, you're just going to be pulled right back down to that same spot in the water. Now, shadow work is what allows us to put our focus on the anchors, cut them off and remove them so that we can start naturally floating towards the top rather than trying to struggle and swim up to the top ourselves. Now, of course, after you've done letting go, you can add and you pour gasoline on the fire. But again, if you have a ton of shadow work you need to do and energetic anchors that are holding you back, the answer isn't to add more things. The answer is to release the thing that is literally keeping you in place or potentially even dragging you slowly further into the depths. The scary truth about shadow work is it ultimately can make all of the difference. Again, David Hawkins' book, Letting Go, has so many different examples from his work of people who just did the letting go techniques, which we're going to give you in this video. I'm going to share with you some of these techniques that you can start using right away. And through doing these techniques and just staying consistent with them, their life did a full 180. I mean, he gives examples in there. For example, there was someone who for over 20 years, I believe, in their professional life was stuck and was having so much trouble advancing their career, started doing the letting go techniques, and I think within like 6 to 8 months, I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was a pretty short amount of time, they got 2 promotions. And there's a bunch of other ones with relationships in there, again, financial ones. There's so many examples of this happening. I've seen it happen with myself and my own clients. The letting go, the shadow work is so much of your ability to create. And if you're not doing it, you are just limiting your ability to be able to create your reality. So today I will be going over how you can use shadow work to create your reality powerfully and also introduce you to, like I mentioned, some of the techniques that are going to help you. And I'm also going to introduce you to a technique that very, very few people know about, but is probably the most powerful one out there to date. It is like magic how quickly you can start releasing these anchors when you know this technique. And so towards the end of the video, I will be giving you that as well. So why is shadow work so important? I already mentioned that when you don't do this, it is so hard to expand, to grow, to really create in the ways that you want. But why is that? Well, I want to draw your attention to a quote that is always said in self-development communities because of just how true it is, especially in law of attraction and videos like that. And it's simply, you don't get what you want, you get who you are or what you are. And what this ultimately means is you are going to attract the like kind of what you are. Now, what are you? And in my eyes, what you are is the vibration or the energetic signature you are transmitting outwards most of the time. And guess what makes it very difficult to transmit out an energetic signature or frequency or vibration? Guess what makes it very difficult to transmit out one that's going to benefit you? If you have a massive shadow, or if you have massive anchors that are weighing you down, because those are a part of your unconscious a lot of times, the things we're not looking at, and they get mixed into your energy and your energetic signal and start sending out that transmission, which brings you back more of the same. But if we were to clear those out and remove the anchors, there would be nothing disrupting your energetic signature, and you would have a much easier time selecting what vibration, frequency, and energy you actually want to send out and then receive more of back. So keep in mind, you are always sending out a transmission, a signal to the greater consciousness system, the universe, whatever else you want to call it. So if you have patterns, behaviors, and so on that don't serve you, you're sending those out until you clear them. The things that you're thinking about and feeling all the time, those triggers and all those things you seem to not be able to help continually put your focus on, these are a part of your shadow. But you can release these and remove these so that you no longer continually get triggered by these things, which then sends out that signal that I know you probably don't want to be sending out. One way to think of this is this way. You can imagine that you have both a positive and negative energy ball in your life. And whichever one of these is bigger in your life is going to be more magnetic, meaning if you have a higher and bigger and more powerful positive energy ball in your life, you are going to magnetize the like kind of that into your life, meaning more joy, happiness, abundance, peace, love, and so on. But the opposite is true too. If you have a bigger negative energy ball, which is what most people have currently, then you're going to more easily attract in things that resonate and connect and are on the same frequency of that. And if you have all of these energetic anchors that you haven't released, it is contributing to this huge negative energy ball that is bringing more of its like kind in. But if we were to start to deflate that negative energy ball, and we were to start to expand the positive energy ball, which will naturally begin to expand, by the way, as you deflate the negative. Because remember, as we start removing the anchors, you start to naturally float up. So it becomes easier to expand that positive energy ball. But as you start deflating this, you start magnetizing more of the positive stuff in, which makes it easier to think more positively, feel more positively, act more positively, speak more positively, which continues to build momentum in that direction. Again, when you have these anchors or this shadow that you're not looking at, you're not integrating, you're not releasing certain things with, you will unconsciously be sending out certain signals that are going to contribute to the negative energy ball. You will notice that you get lots of thoughts that come up that seem to derail you. You might be in a good mood and boom, you get a thought that kind of lowers your energy, or you get a feeling that seems to come out of nowhere. These are things that are in a way stuck in your thought field, your energy field, and are in your shadow coming up unconsciously due to certain triggers. And so we want to get those out of here, clear those things out so that you can remove these anchors and just start to naturally rise. So I think you get the idea behind shadow work being so important. So I want to jump into some techniques that you can use in order to help you start releasing this shadow. Because the information is great. It's great to know that you have this thing called a shadow, you have an unconscious, you have these energetic anchors, and we all have them. And you pick these things up, by the way, throughout your life. Sometimes you come in with them as well. Regardless of wherever it's coming from, you have the power to release the anchor. So it doesn't matter what it is. And when you release that anchor, you release it forever unless you intentionally, for some reason, pick it up again. Like you re-traumatize yourself back into attaching that anchor, which no one in their right mind would actually do. So when you release these things, they're gone. You have released them and you have created a new, what we could call vibrational set point, or higher level of consciousness being your homeostasis when you do this. So let's jump into some of the techniques. Now, the first one is called the painkiller technique. And what I'm gonna do is play a clip from a previous video where I explained this very deeply and very well. And essentially, this technique is a beautiful one to use when you do notice that you're getting triggered in the moment. So you notice something comes up and you're getting hooked into it. You can use this painkiller technique that's very simple to do, but very powerful. This is one you can use to clear out something that comes up within about 60 to 90 seconds. Anyway, I'll explain it in the clip so you know exactly how to do it, exactly when to use it, and I'll see you here afterwards. Now, this tool we call the painkiller technique is a technique from our reality creation program called EMF, and this is where we take people through a 6-month transformation journey that causes them to come out the other side a powerful reality creator. Now, if you want to learn more about it so you can have guidance on this path, not need to keep using trial and error and get results as fast as possible, check out the first link in my description that shows you how it works, the results others have gotten, and so much more. Now, let's jump into this tool. Like I said, and the reason we call this the painkiller is because this is a very fast-acting tool that you use in the moment. When used effectively, you can release an emotion that's triggering you in 60 seconds or less. Now, there may be some more deep-rooted patterns that if you keep getting triggered by, you will need to do deeper letting go techniques, which I'll give you some resources for at the very end or where you can go find them. But this is going to be great, again, to not keep getting derailed every moment of the day or multiple times during the day. So here's exactly what you do. First, we call it wake up. You are probably unconscious, so get present. Catch yourself sleeping awake. So whenever you feel the emotions and you feel like you're about to be unconscious about it, start thinking unconsciously about it, to start reacting to it, you just need to snap yourself awake, take a deep breath, and get into the moment. Wake yourself up and get into the moment. This is so you don't get owned by the emotion and it takes you on a journey you ultimately don't want to go on. So we need to take back control and wake up. The second thing you're going to do is what we call identify and locate. So where is the emotion and what is the emotion? You'll find that usually when you feel an emotion, it's somewhere in your body, like your gut or your head or your heart and so on. So identify what the emotion is and where it is. Literally put a spotlight on it and focus on it. Now, a great way to determine a core list of emotions is to look at what we call the Hawking scale, which I'll pop up on screen. And the reason we want to do this is we want to be specific with what the emotion is, and we don't want to label it something that isn't technically an emotion. So make sure you are labeling it correctly and you know where in the body it is. Now, once you've done that, the third thing you're going to do is simply disidentify yourself from the emotion. And what this does is it empowers you to choose a response instead of being hooked. So you would say something like, if I'm doing it, and let's say it's anger. Let's say I'm going through some anger, I'm triggered by something and it's making me angry, or I'm responding with anger. You would say something like, I, David, am currently experiencing the emotion of anger. And what this does is it creates separation. You are not the emotion. It is just something that is occurring. It's something that is, but you are not anger or guilt or apathy or whatever the emotion is. You are simply experiencing this emotion. So separate yourself. You and the emotion are not one and the same. And fourth and final thing is observe and allow. Now, this is crucial. We are not going to try and fix it, and we are not going to try and force the emotion out. You allow it to be there. It is there for a reason, and what you resist will persist. And you will notice that the emotion will start to move. Allow it to do so, and also give yourself to fully feel in the moment without any kind of judgment. So if any tears, or if you have to yawn, or just any kind of feeling you have, just allow it. No resistance. What you resist persists. The interesting thing you'll find is that no emotion can survive in the human body for longer than 60 to 90 seconds if it's unresisted. And there are those who hold on to emotions for years, allowing themselves to be triggered by them constantly, when they only need about 60 seconds of doing this technique to start powerfully releasing these emotions. I mean, can you think of anyone who's just been angry for years or sad for years or all these different things? If they were just, when this emotion was to come up, use this technique, they would save themselves years of trouble and heartache and suffering because they would start to release it and gain some control back over their lives. Now, what you may also notice after you do this is that the emotion actually turns to joy or neutrality. You will start to feel better. And this usually happens within about 90 seconds. And again, it's going to take some practice to get really good at this, but once you have done it a few times, this is something you will notice. So you're potentially 60 to 90 seconds away from feeling guilt, shame, anger, and turning it into joy. Now, practice this technique and I promise you, you will start releasing powerfully, really, really quickly. And imagine what it would be like if you could just keep using this and not be derailed by your emotions constantly throughout the day. It'd be pretty awesome, wouldn't it? All right, so once again, that is a beautiful one to be able to use in the moment, and I highly recommend you get good at this one. I mentioned 60 to 90 seconds of unresisting the emotion will allow it to turn into neutrality or happiness or joy, but you can get that even further down when you get good at it. You can get it to a few seconds where you wake up and you recognize what it is, allow, and it's released, and you can get really good at that technique the more you practice it, but you have to use it. And I recommend using it as much as you need throughout the day, because the alternative is allowing yourself to be overwhelmed or succumb to whatever the trigger is that came up that is activating one of the anchors that you have, and instead of trying to release that anchor, you're just giving into it. So I recommend using it as often as you need to. Now, this next one I want to give you is something you can also use in the moment, and I recommend you do, but it's also an amazing modality, in fact, the best I've ever come across to release more deeply rooted things. We could compare this to the bigger anchors that you're holding on to. Again, you can use this to release things that are in your DNA that came in with you that might be blocks that you came in with, things from your heritage or from your ancestry, things of this nature, previous lifetimes. And I don't want to go too in the weeds here with everything, but just understand the power of this technique I'm about to give you, called TFT, or thought field therapy. Now, thought field therapy is a very unknown technique, but is coveted and used very frequently by those in very powerful circles and in very successful circles because of its effectiveness, how fast it works, and how much it can clear. Now, TFT, you may say, sounds similar to something called EFT, and the reason that it is sounding similar is because they are very similar to a degree. EFT is a derivative of TFT. One of Roger Callahan's students, who is the creator of TFT, Roger Callahan is, one of his students went off and created EFT. Now, the problem with EFT is it's fairly incomplete compared to TFT. There's a lot missing, and so you can think of EFT like a watered down version of TFT, and sometimes it gets mixed results. Some people get amazing results with EFT, and it can be very effective, but it's even more so with TFT. And I've seen the power of TFT in my own life and working with clients through it too, where people have things that have been traumatic since they were kids go away in about 30 minutes, sometimes less, where we get them to score where it is in intensity from 0 to 10. They'll say 10 or 9 or something like that, and within a few minutes we've gotten it down to a 5 or 4, and a few minutes later it's down to like a 1, and they can't actually get the feeling back. They try, I say try and tune into it, and they're like, it's gone. I almost can't remember it. That's how powerful this technique is, just to give you an idea of what we're working with here. Now, an amazing book and resource I want to give you alongside letting go is this book right here called Tapping the Healer Within. This is by Roger Callahan and also, I believe, Richard Trudeau, but this is basically Callahan's techniques and his research. It's not only going to show you the technique and give you the history of how he came about it and formed it, but it also shows you the data and the research they've done to show that it works. This works for basically everyone that uses it. It has a very high success rate. He'll go over that in the book itself, but it is an amazing resource if you want to explore this further. Now, I personally give complimentary sessions of TFT to members of my EMF program. They all get a complimentary session when entering the program, and then from there can get more if they wish to do so. I don't offer it to the public because it would just fill up my calendar to the point where I wouldn't be able to do anything else. But if you do want to learn about EMF, which is our 6-month coaching transformation program, which basically, if you do the work and trust the process, gets you amazing results, you can through the first link down below. It'll show you, how it works and also the results people are getting. So if you are interested in something like that and you're ready to get true lasting transformation, you can check that out. Now, what I want to do here is just take you through a very common sequence you would see in TFT, and also this would be in EFT as well. There's some notable differences with TFT. For example, muscle testing is involved, which allows you to more directly get at whatever it is you're working on. There's a thing called reversal that it works on. For example, if you're in reversal, you're actually going to get backwards answers to your questions, meaning you have to get yourself out of reversal, and so many different things. Again, if you get that book and you really want to dive into this, which I really recommend you do, this is, again, one of the most powerful modalities I've ever come across, then I would invite you to do that. Now, what I want to do right now is just take you through a tapping sequence you can do at this very moment if you wish to do so. Now, again, this is not me locking in exactly whatever it is that's going on for you. This is not going through a full sequence or anything. So I'm not saying you will clear everything by doing this, But you can use this in the moment throughout your day and usually notice that you're going to get some relief, or you're going to be able to reduce the charge or lower the volume to the intensity of whatever you are feeling. So again, this is the most simple sequence and just one of many we will use, but let's go through it right now. So all you need to do is tap the top of your head, and everything we do here is just going to be for about 8 to 15 taps, so you can do it for yourself. Then we're going to tap what's called the eyebrow point. It's right here, basically in the front of your eyebrow, or on the end, and just on the ends of your eyebrow there. Then we go to the side of the eye, which is right here, right where your temples are, and you're going to tap that for about 8 to 15 times. Then you go below your eye, right here. You go below your nose. You go below your mouth. And if you have to yawn or release in any way, just allow yourself to do it. Yawn, cough, some people sneeze. And if you don't, it's also okay too. Then you're going to go to the collarbone. Hopefully this doesn't mess with my audio. If it does, just we'll tune that out. Then you're going to do what's called the armpit or underarm spot. So you go like this, and you're basically tapping the inside of or the middle of your armpit. So you can either go like this, where you're kind of hugging yourself, or do the monkey and go like this. Then it's your ribs. It's just below your chest. You can't see it on screen here, but it's just below your chest on your ribs. Then what we do is we do the side of hand, but you can actually get both of them by hitting both sides of your hands together, just like that. Then you're going to do your thumb. And when you do your thumb, you want to face it out like this, and you want to tap where the nail and the flesh meet, just like this, 8 to 15 times. Then the index finger, same thing, flesh and nail where they meet. The middle finger, same, flesh and nail. The pinky finger. And then you're going to tap what's called the gamma point, which is between your pinky and your ring finger. It's this fleshy spot right here. You should feel it right between, and you tap that. You can usually do that about 20 times. Again, we can always test to see how many times exactly, but just in general, you can do that. All right, now for some of you, you may already feel a difference just from that simple tapping sequence, and this is something you can use throughout your day along with the knee or painkiller exercise in order to reduce the volume or energy. These will chip away at your energetic anchors, and for some of them, clear them completely. Now again, that's just one sequence in what's thousands of combinations, which is why getting with a TFT practitioner can be very helpful. But another thing, because I don't want to leave you hanging, I want to give you something here. Within the book, Tapping the Healer Within, and just so you know, I'm not affiliated with any of this, so I don't get anything if you go get this book. I am offering it to you because it is a lesser known book, but is incredibly powerful and can help you very much. So I don't receive anything if you go get this book. I'm offering it and presenting it to you because it will help. But what's great about this book is in the beginning, they will go over the history of TFT and everything else. But towards the back, he is going to give you certain algorithms and tapping sequences for certain things that you're going through. So for example, towards the middle back of the book, you'll see putting the algorithms to work. And what the algorithms are different sequences, and he will go over how to do them that heal specific things. There are even things in there for jet lag, and when you have headaches, that you can do different sequences that he gives you, and you will notice that the headache or the jet lag actually goes away. So I'll just read you some of the algorithms that he offers in the book itself. He offers algorithms that are going to help you with trauma, anxiety, addictive urges, phobias, depression, anger and rage, obsessions, guilt, shame, embarrassment. There's jet lag, physical pain, and more. And so if you're looking to put this to use and be able to use it specifically on your own and at least start getting some clearings now, I highly recommend you get this book and explore TFT further. Now, one last thing I will mention when you're going through these algorithms, which will be explained in the book if you do go to get it, but if you're doing the tapping, for example, is again, you want to give yourself a rating on how intense the feeling is or whatever it is you're going through on a scale of 0 to 10, and then notice where it's at after you've gone through a sequence. So for example, you can do the tapping sequence I gave you, and there's many other things you can do that I take clients through, like there's something called collarbone breathing, rubbing the tender spot, the 7-second treatment, so many different things. But that tapping sequence alone, if you do 2 to 3 rounds of it with something, you will usually notice some kind of difference or clearing that has occurred. Now, there are many different modalities and many things out there that can help you with this, where you're doing the shadow work and letting go and releasing. And I suppose the main theme of this video is to encourage you and invite you to do so. Whether you explore the knee or the painkiller exercise I've given you here, whether you want to do a Ho'oponopono meditation, whether you want to explore TFT, which is the one I really recommend because personally I've seen it get the most results for myself and people I've seen go through it. But whatever the case, like I mentioned in the beginning, I full-heartedly believe that without the shadow work, you are limiting your growth and your ability to create your reality. When I started doing shadow work, it changed the game for me in my ability to create reality, because there was so much less stopping me or derailing me and killing off my momentum after I started doing this stuff. And I still have way more to go through. And so I invite you and implore you and just encourage you to get into some kind of shadow work routine and habit and exercises that you can stick with. Anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for today. But if you go watch this video next in combination with what you just learned today, it's gonna pour even more gasoline on the fire. Other than that, make sure you're doing the shadow work, or I would at least encourage you to do so, and see what happens.